Let's see what I have here. It doesn't open when I shake it like this. Why? Because of this self-closure. And you just flip and flap, flip and flap. And it is really fun to flipping and flapping these flip flaps and seeing what's inside the envelopes. I have a side loading one and I also have a top loading one. And believe it or not, these are made using junk envelopes. Hi, Sherls here. Thank you for stopping by on my channel. Welcome or welcome back. I believe most of us have lots of junk envelopes. I have a box full of them. I have been trying to use them in my projects, but unfortunately it keeps growing. One of the fastest way to use them up, in my opinion, is flip-flap envelopes. Last year, I made a similar tutorial in the middle of my fight against the flu virus. Due to my almost constant coughing, I made that tutorial into a slideshow style. Then I got feedback that it was too fast and another viewer said that she could not follow it. I have since changed the way I prepare my junk envelopes, so I thought it's the perfect time to redo the tutorial. The main character of this project is obviously junk envelopes. Use a variety of size, shapes, or styles if you have it. Mine mostly are in the standard number 10 size, which measure around 4 and 8 inches by 9.5 inches. I say around because, as you can see here, some envelopes is slightly smaller than the other. Whatever size you have, make sure to have one big envelope that will act as the base of these flip-flap envelopes. For the mat, I'm going to use Shabby Blue Valentine background by Rach and Bella Crafts. I will also be using self-adhesive white wallpaper. This is a scrap from my husband's construction work in our previous house. You can use paper or Tyvek for stronger material, or craft tape. On top of the basic paper crafting tool, glue, scissors, and pencil, I will also be using a scoring board and paper trimmer. The main drawback of using mostly the same size of envelopes is no size variety. So the first thing I do is alter the junk envelopes into a various sizes of pockets like this one. Disregarding the existence of a window, there are basically two styles of my junk envelopes. Envelope with the closure flap still intact, and envelope where I cut through the flap open. Envelopes with the closure flap still intact like this are my favorite. They are basically ready to use and they're very easy to alter. All I have to do is shut this envelope up. Before that, I need to make sure each of the overlaps is properly adhered. I don't want these open gaps catching the items inserted into the final pocket. And for that reason, I will also be applying adhesive as close as possible to the edge of the pocket. Now that my envelope is closed, I just need to cut along the shorter side to turn it into pockets. My envelope has now turned into two pockets. I don't usually cut through the window of a window envelope. Sometimes I want to keep the window to make a window pocket like this one. Or I want to keep a tiny gaps around the mat like this example. If I cut through the window, I will see a see-through portion of the window. For this tutorial, I intentionally cut through the window to show you how I cover up the see-through edge. By the way, I use the Grungy Essentials Digital by Rach and Bella Crafts for these examples. I really like the Grungy Essentials kit. In my opinion, it's very versatile and you can use it for most themes. I will put the link to the digital shown in this tutorial in the description box. These kind of junk envelopes are pockets by their own right. I can use them as is, but it will make my flip-flap envelope boring. There is no size variety on this, so I usually alter them to make a variety of pocket sizes. There are two ways I can go about it. Whichever ways I use, I make sure there is no opening gap within the overlapping paper. Again, I do not want these gaps because it will catch whatever items I put inside the final pocket. Now it's time to use my scoring board. The first method, using my scoring board, I score around half inches in from the opening edge of the envelope. It's not always half inches because sometimes my envelope is a hair wider or narrower than the nearest scoring mark. Now I'm going to cut off one side of this half inches tab. And I'm going to taper this. This part is not properly glued yet. It's kind of wet. So I just want to make sure that it is properly adhered and it won't catch the items I inserted into the pocket. And I'm going to apply adhesive on this tab. So here I cut only the one side of the tab and leave the one on the front intact. And turn it into a flap, apply adhesive, and then I glued it to the other side. Now this envelope has turned into a closed envelope. I will be using this as my base flip-flap junk envelopes. And I usually use the flip-flap envelopes as a journal topper. That's why I cut it into 8 3/4 inches tall, the common height of my journal. I don't have a need for this tiny scrap, so I'm going to throw it away. Sometimes my junk envelope has a fuzzy edge like this one. So when this happens, I will trim a little bit of this edge to make it clean. Now for the second method, with the long edge laying horizontally on my scoring board, I score somewhere I fancy. I don't like to score through the window, so I will score it after the window. And for this envelope, I want to use the other pocket as my self-closure pocket. Usually, I use 2 1/4 inches as my self-closure pocket. So I score it 2 1/4 inches from the edge and then another half inch gap like this. Now, I have scoring mark that's showing on both sides of the envelope, and I am going to cut the front side on this scoring mark and the back side on this scoring mark. This is how my envelopes now turns to. We do not want to cut through both sides of the envelope. This is the result that you want. And now I'm going to use my scissors again to cut this and spread it and taper the tab. Then I'm going to glue this shut to make it into a pocket. These are the pockets I got from the second method. As you can see here, from the same size of envelopes from the same company, I have this variety of pockets. For these two pockets, I glued this edge shut and then chop it into 2 pockets. And for these ones, I used the second method and I just scored it on different sides. You can score it as close or through the window if you don't mind to have more variety of pocket sizes. The last thing we need to prepare before starting assembling is this closure belt. I cut my junk envelope as wide as my base and 1 1/2 to 2 inches tall. I will cut through the window if I cut this envelope 2 inches tall. So I will cut it 1.5 inches. This is my closure belt, and these scraps, I will be keeping it for future project. Now for this closure belt, I'm going to glue this together. I really suggest not to cut this envelope because we want it to be thick, and the thickness will help the sturdiness of the closure belt. You will open and close the closure belt a lot, so the thicker it is, the better. So like this. Now I'll just put it aside and start assembling my flip-flap envelopes. I already prepared my self-adhesive wallpaper. I cut it into strips, and my wallpaper on the back is already has these grids. This grid is in centimeter, so I cut it around 3 centimeters long to make into strips of tape. And I'm just going to fold it into half. This will help me position the wallpaper into my envelope to make sure that I have a similar gap in both sides. My tape is ready. Now is the fun part, deciding which envelopes I am going to use. So first, I know this is my closure, and I have these 2 small pockets. The first pocket is nice, like it's almost snug, and this one is way wider than my closure belt, so I will be using this as the closure pocket. So these are decided, and let's see, do I want to use this? Let's see, this is the closure flap still intact, so I can just, let's see, put it like this. And for this one, oh, this will be nice. This is what happens when my husband open an envelope. He will just tear through the closure, and I want to use it, but I do not like this jagged look, so I'm going to trim this off. So my second envelope is here. I will position it somewhere I fancy. Maybe something like this. Now I mentioned I want to show you how I'm going to cover this up. This flip flap and this pocket is actually the same size, the same width as my base, so I can use it like this, or I can use it like this. How do I want it to be? Maybe I will just use it like this, because here I have open on the top, this one is open here, this one open here, and then top just for variation. And how about using this one? Let's see, let's maybe use the little bit smaller one, or yeah, having a lot of variation of pockets sometimes can also be a headache. It's a headache for me because I always cannot make decision really fast, but it's the fun of crafting. So something like this. Kind of want this to look a little bit staggering. I'll just put it on the peel on the bottom, one on the center, and now the closure. I didn't glue this properly. I can go back on it later. My self closure will be on the center. The reason why I cut the closure belt as wide as my base is because when I have a lot of things and my flip flap envelope becomes so bulky like this, I want to make sure that this closure is still buckling nicely like this. If you cut this belt short and you have your items on the flip flap envelope, it might just flap open like this. In other words, this self closure is not working as it's intended to. And for this pocket, I like to make it as wide as half of the base or more. This one is good enough, so I'm going to keep it. And if I feel it's too long, sometimes I just trim it. But this thing is good, so I kind of destroy it. So I'm going to put this back again. The first envelope, because it already has a flap, I just need to apply adhesive and making sure that the overlap is properly shut. This, and I want this to be on the inside. And I'm going it. It's good enough. Yep. And my second one is easy because it's only in the middle. It's only in the center of my base. Just open this. This is the opening, and it's going to line the edge of this with the center fold like this. I'm going to cut this off and position it. The way I do this is by aligning the edge of this pocket and my base, making sure that it's properly aligned. That's good enough. And pull this flap in, pressing it with my bone folder to make sure that I have a strong bonding here. And my next one is this one. That's better. That's correct. And this will be somewhere around here, making sure that the edges are aligned and the height is, the position is where I want it to be. And the next one will be also in the middle. Like this. So make sure when you glue the pocket into the base that you keep it as close as possible to the edge of the base. Like this one here, you see there's a tiny bit gap, extra gap here that I don't like. So I'm going to redo this part. Pull it in as much as I can. And looks better now, much better. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's perfect. And the closure, I already have this. Let's see if it is enough. Yep. And this is the opening. My flip-flop junk envelope is assembled. Open the closure and I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 flip-flop pockets, 5 pockets with a base. I usually only use 4 flip-flop pockets because in my opinion that's enough. If you like, you can add more. Do whatever makes your heart happy. And the last step is to cover these flip-flop envelopes with pretty digitals. I will be using the shabby blue Valentine background by Raj and Bella Crafts. So even though this digital has Valentine on the name, it can work for non-Valentine theme projects. In fact, I will be using it with Truly Blue Kit by Raj and Bella Crafts to make a journal. These are all the digitals in the shabby blue Valentine background. Let's see which one I will be using for the back of these flip-flap envelopes. I think I will be using this one. This is the way that I cover the envelopes without cap, but you don't have to follow me, of course. Just do whatever you are accustomed to. It's just, in my opinion, this is faster. I don't have to take my paper trimmer to cut the paper over and over, and just easier. And I like to use liquid glue for the edge, so I can be sure that I have a proper bond. Like this. And I think this one is, yeah, it's a little bit too short, so I like this red to show more, making sure that it is aligned. Perfect. Then using my big spatula to give it a massage so it will bond properly. And then my scissors and trim it off. And it's done. Now, before I continue with the rest, I will show you what I'm going to do with this one. So this one is too short. Let's go find some paper here that I want to use for it. I want to continue the blue theme, so I might not use this one. And oh, I like this one. Let's see, this kind of upside down, so this one has stitches. Oh, this one works. So I kind of want this to show though, and I want to do it the easy way. Oh, this one, it works. So again, applying glue. I like to use glue stick for the big surface, and then use the liquid glue for the edges. I do not know why, but when I use the liquid glue on the middle of the big surface, it always dry with bumps. I do not know why. I really have no clue. And that's why I've been using glue stick for the big area and the liquid glue for the edges. That's good. And massage my paper. And I'm going to cut this, or actually, yeah, I can do something like this and it will save me time. But I need to cover this see-through, this see-through element. And how I'm going to do it, I'm just going to cut my paper like this. So I'm cutting it taller than the edge of the pocket. Just fold it. Now I know where to trim this part off. That's good. Yeah. Something like this, and down this way, and folding this And I'm going to glue this inside the pocket like so. It's kind of hard, so maybe trim this a little bit, and this side as well, just a tiny little bit, so you can fold this in nicely. And massage it. And now I need to trim this off a little bit. I'm just going to fold it in. The last one that I would like to show you is how I cover the closure belt. So you can just do it like this, but I like to wrap the digital around it so it will have more sturdiness. And to go about this, and just cover like both sides properly. Nope. So how about this one? With perfect width. So let's just cover this side first. So basically the way I covered this closure pocket and the closure belt is the same. So just so this tutorial is not going to go very long, I will just show you how I map this closure pocket, and it will give you idea how I'm doing the closure belt. This is my lazy way matting these flip-flap junk envelopes. The proper way is you measure every size and then cut your paper. Do whatever makes your heart happy. For this tutorial not to go too long, I will continue matting these flip-flap junk envelopes and show you the final result. This is my finished flip-flap junk envelope. So I can just open it like this, and there is one envelope. It's a top loading one. And second one, the side loading. Third, also side loading. And fourth. And this is my piece, the last one, and I'll leave the window open so you can see what I put inside. And same with this one. Total, I used 3 sheets of the shabby blue Valentine background digital, and these are my leftover scraps. I just put this in this pocket for now because I might be using it in the journal that I'm going to use this for. And alongside of this, I also make a couple more of blank flip-flap envelopes. And this 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have not covered this because I do not know yet what I'm going to use this for. So I'm just going to keep it with my other ephemera and then mat it when I know what this will be used for. And for this one, I use a 6x9 envelope as my base. I remove the flap and later I will cover it on the outside and the inside as well, so you don't see this ugly hole. And later I plan to put a circle here so you can tuck it close like this. Okay, I have not decided what I'm going to use it for, so I'm just keeping it blank like this. And these are all of my flip-flap junk envelopes I made. It's super fun to make. I can keep going on making this on and on and on, but I still have tons of other things to do, so I have to stop. I hope you try this, and I hope this give you more idea to use your junk envelopes. If you have any question, just feel free to message me or leave me a comment. Happy crafting! Bye!